If you're looking to get into cybersecurity, then just studying theoretical stuff is not going to be important. Rather, recruiters look for those candidates that have hands-on practical experience. But let's say if you don't have a job, how exactly do you get that practical experience? Well, in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating a really good hands-on cybersecurity project which involves a web application firewall and setting everything from scratch for this home lab. We're going to be using a hypervisor, virtual machines. We're going to be doing the networking for these virtual machines. We're going to set up an Apache web server. We're going to set up PHP, MySQL. We're also going to be running our heart of this video, which is a SAFELINE web application firewall, which is going to be protecting against all of these attacks that the Kali Linux machine is going to direct towards our web application firewall. So there's a lot of interesting stuff that gives you that all important hands-on experience with cybersecurity. Hence, let's say for example, you're not ready now with your workstation or it's not your time to study. That's okay. Just watch the next 2 minutes of this video where I'll be breaking down what exactly we're doing as part of this home lab, which involves the basic setup. And then we'll dive into the actual hands-on tutorial stuff. But trust me, it's very interesting and I had a lot of fun doing this for the first time. So I'm really excited to share this with you guys. So diving straight into the setup of this project, we're going to be using VirtualBox, which is our hypervisor. And along with this, we're going to be using two virtual machines, a Kali Linux and an Ubuntu. So our Kali Linux machine is going to be our attacker and our Ubuntu machine is going to be the victim. Now, the way this is going to work is that, as I said, it's going to be running on VirtualBox. So we're going to be setting up both these machines to our bridged network adapter. What this means is that it gets an IP address from your home router and it kind of acts like as if it's physically a part of your home network itself. Your host machine, which is your Windows or your Mac or whatever desktop you're running, is pretty much bridging the connection between this virtual machine and your home router. So they're both going to be set up on a bridge network. So in like a real world scenario, it's as if both these devices are part of the same network. This Ubuntu machine is going to be running an Apache web server. So we'll install an Apache web server on there. Along with it, it will also run PHP and MySQL. And the application which is going to be running is called as DVWA, called as Damn Vulnerable Web Application. What this application is that it consists of a lot of vulnerabilities, which is mainly used by students when they want to learn anything about cybersecurity. So let's have that here as well. So let me get the spelling right. We've got a damn vulnerable web application called as DVWA. So this is what an environment is going to look like. We've got everything set up from scratch, and I'm also going to list a document in the description of this video. So if you want, you can just download that document straight away. It's got a complete A to Z, start to finish sort of worksheet, which will walk you through every step to get this whole project set up and run in your own home lab environment. But at the heart of this setup is our hero of this project, which is a web application firewall. And in this case, we're going to be using something called as SAFELINE. So we'll be using the SAFELINE web application firewall. So what a web application firewall is that it's a firewall which is there to protect your websites or web applications against any malicious attacks like cross-site scripting, SQL injections, and all of those real-life dangerous attacks that hackers look to carry out on a prod or a real-life web application. As we proceed into the hands-on tutorial part of this video, we'll deploy the web application firewall. We look at the different features that are available on there. We'll set up our own DVWA web application on there with custom generated certificates. We'll do the DNS resolution for it so that everything works and you can access the website over DNS rather than IP addresses. And what we'll do is we'll then use our Kali machine to attack this web server, and we'll show how good the SAFELINE web application firewall is. What are the different settings you can use within this web application firewall to protect your website or web application, and we'll tweak different settings, and that way we'll develop our skills and hands-on knowledge around this whole wonder which is a web application firewall. Okay, so I've got everything set up already on my workstation. I've got VirtualBox running, I've got the two VMs running, and let's dive straight in. So if you can see right here, let me get the VirtualBox window up. You can see these are the two VMs that are running, And I'll quickly show you the networking settings for these. So the Kali Linux, for example, if you go to the network settings, is running on a bridge adapter. And similarly, your Ubuntu desktop is also running on a bridge adapter, as you can see it right here. What this does is that it ensures that both your VMs, let's say your Kali, let's call it K, and your Ubuntu, are sort of connected to the same network. And it's pretty much, it's as if it's sharing the same physical network as your host machine, which is your workstation in this case. So look, you can set up the adapter in different ways, but I prefer using a bridge adapter because it's just easier to set up and it gets an IP address straight away from your home router. So that's the networking side of things, and that's how you enable the two devices to be able to communicate with each other. So let's quickly just confirm that this is the case. So let's log into our Kali Linux first. So let's log straight in. If we look at our Kali Linux, let's open a terminal window. All right, cool. Let's quickly check that using ifconfig. And if you see, let's look at the IP address. There you go. So this one's a 192.168.0.206. And then similarly, what we'll do is let's quickly check for the Ubuntu VM as well. So let's get the Ubuntu VM up. Let's log in. And let's quickly check ifconfig. Yep, that's on the same network as well. So it's the 192.168.0.0/24 network. Before we go into the specific configs of the web server and all of that stuff, we first got to look at our web application firewall. In this specific scenario, the web application firewall that we're using is going to be a product called as SAFELINE. So let's quickly check what exactly this SAFELINE product is and why are we even choosing it in the first place. So let's get that up on the screen and let's quickly have a look. So SAFELINE is a web application firewall which is provided by this company called as SafePoint, and they've got different options, and one of their options is a web application firewall which is called as SAFELINE. Now with SAFELINE, like if you go to their website safepoint.cloud/landing/SAFELINE, the URL is going to be in the description, so do check it out. Give it a read on your own first, because we're mainly going to be working with this web application firewall and we'll be testing it and reviewing and seeing how this fits into our project. And you can also consider to use this in, like, let's say a real world scenario for a website you're running, or like, you know, there are many people that have their own websites, they host their own services. It's a great little product to have running, and you can also build labs with it, and you can also use it for your own use cases. So if you come to the main website, there are different options. So the first one is where you can click install, and this takes you to a page which will help you install the SAFELINE web application firewall. So there are two methods that you can do it. As you can see, there's an automatic deploy right here, or there's also a manual deploy. Now, if you look at the manual deploy, you've got to install Docker, you've then got to create directories and run a few scripts. It's just easier to do an automatic deploy. So what we'll do is we'll just copy this command right here, and we'll go to our Ubuntu machine. So let's get the Ubuntu machine back on the screen. Let's paste that command which we've just copied. So let's get that here. So also, by the way, what I've done is I've enabled copy pasting between my host machine and the VM. So it just gets easier for me to like copy paste across different OSs. So I'll just run that command, and okay, so it says script needs to be run as root. So let's elevate our privileges. So the way you do that is sudo. It'll probably ask me for a password. So let's enter our root password first. And then once we do that, it'll give you different options. Okay, so this is the install window. It then asks you what exactly you want to do with this specific script. So I think what we want to do is we want to install. So let's hit number 1, and the input path, okay, we'll leave it the way it is. We leave it default, and we just wait for this to be installed, because This is the web application firewall that we're going to be working with, and we're going to configure everything. Rules, we're going to configure authentication, we're going to configure blocks against common attacks like cross-site scripting, SQL injection, etc. So yeah, let's wait while that's getting done. And in the meantime, let's quickly have a look at the SAFELINE documentation as well. There's a live demo too, so you can check that out as well. Like if you don't want to install it first and you just want to see how it looks. Now we'll be logging into our SAFELINE web application firewall once it's set up on the Ubuntu, but this is what the web UI looks like. So you see, it shows you how many requests are coming in, how many visitors, what are blocked, the number of IP addresses. It's got a pretty cool GUI going on right here. It shows you what are the different countries that your requests are coming in from. You got different options. You got you can configure blocks against HTTP flood, for example. In this case, you can configure authentication. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because we're going to be looking at all of this stuff once we set it up, and that's why it's a home lab. That's why it's a project that you can also work on. So let's head back to our Ubuntu and see what exactly is going on with this. All right, so it's still in its upgrade process. So we'll probably give it a couple of minutes and then let's come back. Now, while the SAFELINE web application firewall is still being installed, I'll show you how exactly I have achieved the role of a DNS server in this project. Now, ideally, if you want, you can spin up your own DNS server, like a DNS bind server in Linux. But I didn't want to make this video too long as well. So what I did was I manually updated the etc host file. So let's say you've got these two machines right here. This is the Kali, this is the Ubuntu, and there's a DNS server sitting somewhere. And this DNS server right here contains IP to domain name mappings. And when these two machines need to access a specific website, the requests go to the DNS server, it looks up the mappings and then returns the IP address back to the machine. But because I didn't want to do all of that, what I did was I manually updated a file called as /etc/hosts. And in this file, what you can do is you can store manual mappings for an IP address to a domain name. So let's quickly verify that. I'll quickly log into both the Kali and the Ubuntu and let's have a look. So let's get the Kali Linux first. All right, so this information, as I said, is stored in the etc host file. So let's cat the etc host file and let's get that up. So as you can see, there's a manual entry here, which is 192.168.0.217 to webserver.thesocialdoc. If you want to edit this on your own, you probably use an editor. Like I usually use nano. So you go sudo nano /etc/hosts, and then you can log in with your sudo password, and then you can make the necessary changes. Similarly, let's quickly verify on the Ubuntu side as well. So we go cat /etc/hosts, same thing. And you can see there's a manual entry for webserver.thesocialdoc. Now, what I've also done is I've also gone ahead and installed Apache, PHP, and MySQL. And I've also installed the DVWA. So the DVWA is also called as Damn Vulnerable Web Application, which is our vulnerable web application, which we'll be testing and protecting using our SAFELINE web application firewall in this video. So my web application, which is the DVWA, is currently configured to listen on port 8080. You can change this port on your own. You can set it to whatever you like it to be. I've chosen it to be 8080, but the place where you can verify that is you go into cd/etc/apache2. Let's list the files here by ls-l, which is a long list of files. And then we'll go into the site's enabled directory. Let's check here what's there, and let's check the dvwa.conf. Okay, so here you can see it's listening on port 8080. So ideally, if I open Firefox and if I go to HTTP and I put in the IP address, which is 192.168.0.217:8080, that should open up. There you go. So that's my DVWA, which is running. And by the way, if you remember, we'd already done the etc hosts thing. So right now I should be able to access it over the domain name as well. So let's test that from the Kali Linux. So let's get the Kali Linux up on the screen. So if we go here, we open a browser which is Firefox on the Kali Linux, and let's go http I think it was webserver.thesocial.dork:8080. Yeah, that's what it was. And yeah, there you go. So I can also access it via our attacker machine, which is this Kali Linux box. All right, so it looks like our web application firewall is currently installed. As we can see, it's done all of its necessary checks, and it's also given us an initial username and password which we can use to log in. And it's also told us that, okay, we can access the management panel on this IP address. So let's copy that link and let's paste it in our web browser, and let's see. Okay, oh, I gotta replace the IP address. So let's go 192.168.0.217 and accessible on port 9443. This should work this time. Let's wait for that to load up, and there we go. Cool. So this is the login page for the SAFELINE web application firewall. It also gave us a username and password, so let's just use that to log in. So let me get that typed in. Let's bring that up on the screen. Okay, so let's put the password PJNMWP7C. Let's log in and see what exactly this looks like. All right, so by the first looks of it, it already looks very similar to your live demo which we saw on the Google Chrome page earlier. It has all of these different metrics, which currently everything is 0 because we have not actually run the web application firewall. But let's quickly go through the GUI and see what are the different things we can actually do with this. So the first tab is an applications tab. This is where you can set up your application. So whatever applications you want to protect by your SAFELINE WAF, you import it here and you can set that up, which we'll be doing for our DVWA, which we've already set up. You've also got HTTP flood, which is one of my favorite features with the web application firewall. What this does is it helps performing something called as rate limiting, which mitigates an attack called as a DOS attack. A DOS stands for denial of service. What this means is that a hacker can send all sorts of HTTP flood requests from thousands of machines to your web application, and your web application or your web server would be busy processing these bogus requests rather than serving the genuine requests. And what this does is it creates a scenario of denial of service, which is something you want to avoid. And these attacks are pretty common, by the way, in real life scenarios. Similarly, you can set up authentication, which means like a username or password authentication for your website. And you've also got your predefined attacks that you can block using the web application firewall, such as SQL injection. You've got file uploading, cross-site scripting, PHP code injection, all of these predefined most common attacks, which you can, with one click of a button, just block it using this specific web application firewall. So before we do anything, we've got to set up our license for the web application firewall. Look, you can also use the free license, which gives you the basic stuff that you can do with a web application firewall when it comes to blocking attacks. But if we head over to SAFELINE's website, they give us an option for a 7-day free trial. So as you can see, you can get a 7-day trial for the web application firewall. I'd highly recommend you get this because it will show you all of the different options that all the pro features that you have with this pro license. And trust me, once you use it, you can also keep the subscription. It's completely your choice. You can see what are the different things you can do. As I said, if you want to protect your websites, it's a great little tool and you can check that out as well. But I've already got a license key. So let's head straight back to our Ubuntu VM and let's import that license key in there. So you go to upgrade license and let's put our license code in here and let's go activate. And let's wait for this license to be successfully applied, and then we get all the pro features with our SAFELINE WAF. There you go. It's already upgraded and we've got a pro license and it expires in 7 days. So for 7 days, it's your playground. You can do whatever you want to do with this. So let's first import our application, which is the DVWA, which we are going to be protecting from all of these different attacks using our WAF. So it's simple. You just go add application. Once you go there, you get rid of the domains in there, and you add your domain, which is, in our case, it's webserver.thesocial.org. Let's get that in. I don't want it accessible over port 80, so I'm just gonna delete port 80. Just as a refresher, if you can see earlier when we've been accessing it, we've been accessing our web application over port 80, so which is highly not recommended because it's unencrypted. So we're going to fix that using our web application firewall with one simple click. So we delete that. We got port 443, which requires SSL, but because it needs SSL, we also need an SSL certificate for that, which we'll generate on our own as well. So I'm going to be generating or showing you how to generate a self-signed certificate. You can also use like one generated by SAFELINE. It gives you an option to generate one on its own, which we'll have a look. But let's set it up in a reverse proxy mode, and we'll set up our reverse proxy address to be 192.168.0.217, which is our parent IP address and port number for our web application. Now, for those who don't understand this, because when I try to understand this, even I found this a little tricky, but let's look at the whiteboard. So if we go here, this is your machine, which is sending requests to your website, which first goes to your web application firewall on port 443. But in the backend, that request is then forwarded to this right here, which is HTTP port 8080, which is what your Apache web server is originally configured to listen on. So that's pretty much what your reverse proxy is actually doing in this case. So let's head back to our setup, and let's add an SSL certificate so that we can quickly get our website set up on SAFELINE WAF. So what we'll do is we'll just go to our terminal and let's run a few commands. It's divided into 3 steps, pretty simple. We use OpenSSL. The first one is to generate a private key. We then generate a certificate signing request, and finally we generate our self-signed certificate. So let's get our private key first. So let's call this priv.key and we'll give it a 4096 size. So let's get that generated. Let's go ls-l, which is long list. As you can see, our private key is generated. What we'll do is we'll now create a CSR. So let's get that command in as well. So we'll be using our private key to generate our priv.csr in this case, which is a certificate signing request. So let's fill in all this information. All of this is going to be stored in the certificate. So you can fill it, you can leave it blank. It's completely up to you. I'll just fill some of the basic detailed stuff and then leave the rest the way it is. Quick check again. Do we have our CSR? Yes, we do have our CSR. And finally, let's get our self-signed certificate again using OpenSSL. There we go. Let's call it priv.crt. Let's call our key, which we generated in step 1, and then our CSR, which we generated in step 2. And our validity, as you can see, is going to be 365 days. So let's get that in. Let's go a long list and let's cat our priv.crt, and let's see, there you go. So this is our certificate. So what we're going to do is we're going to import this into our SAFELINE web application firewall. So in order to add a certificate, let's cancel this first actually. And let's go and add the cert first under SSL certificate. So let's go to add a new cert right here. So as I said, there are 2 options where you can get a free cert or you can upload a cert file. In this case, because everything is in like an enclosed lab setup, I'm just going to upload the cert file that we just created. So what I'll do is I'll just go here, I'll copy the certificate from there, get that entered in here. Oops. And we'll also get our private key copied, which was, that was our private key. Let's get that just copied in as well. All right, so our private key and our cert are in there. Let's go submit, and there we go. Our certificate's added. And we'll now head back to our application and we'll redo the steps again. So let's get that sorted. You add the web server. As I said, we delete SSL, port 80, we only leave SSL. So here you can see our new certificate now shows up. So we'll just select that certificate, we leave it to reverse proxy, and let's get our details in 217 and port 8080 and hit submit, and there we go. So our application is currently added, and we've also added an SSL certificate. So earlier we were accessing the website only on HTTP, which is unencrypted and not recommended at all. But now we're going to force anyone accessing the website to access it only on 443. So let's test from the Kali machine. So let's get the Kali Linux machine back up, and let's quickly through a Firefox window check. So let's go HTTP, and I'll try accessing it on HTTP. Let's see what the web application firewall does. So we go web server.thesocial.org, get rid of that, and we go enter. Okay, so there you go. It's automatically redirected it to HTTPS. That's because it's how we've configured it on the web application firewall. So if we head back here, back to our web application firewall, with one click, you can force any requests coming in to come in only on HTTPS and get rid of port 80, which is insecure business taking place. So straight away, you can already see the benefits of having a web application firewall. Simple, easy, one click of a button, you can set HTTPS up. Now, as we've seen, there are so many different settings on our web application firewall. So let's go through each of these different settings so that we can ensure that our website is protected against any form of attacks and it's nice and robust. So let's go into HTTP flood, which is one of the settings that I love. And let's look at the settings that we can configure for any flood attacks. So we've got access limiting, attack limiting, or error limiting. Let's go for access limiting, and let's set up the parameters that we need so that our website is protected. So let's say for a duration of 10 seconds, 100 access requests, our action would be block, and we'll block the user for, let's say, 5 minutes. Now, because I want to demonstrate this, I'll probably go in a duration of 10 seconds. If there are, let's make that 3 access requests, block the machine or the device for 5 minutes. So let's see that at the bottom. An IP has made 3 requests within 10 seconds. This IP will automatically be banned for 5 minutes. So let's save that setting right there. Once you do that, you go to your applications, you go to your DVWA, and you check your HTTP flood settings. And what you do is, there are 2 options. You can either customize it locally within your application, or you can use the global setting that I just set up. So I'll just say use global because I just want to select that, which, as you can see, is the same thing that we had on there. So given that we've configured our rate settings on the web application firewall, let's quickly go to the Kali Linux and try and check if this is even working or not. So let's head back to the Kali. Let's log into the DVWA and let's try accessing a few things. Okay, there you go. Straight away, after it made 3 access requests within 10 seconds, it showed me as access forbidden, and it says blocked for access too fast. So what we'll do is, let's go and check the logs on the SAFELINE web application firewall. So let's refresh these logs and see. So ideally, we should be seeing some logs in the HTTP flood. There you go. So we've got LAN IP 192.168.0.206, which is our Kali machine. And it is blocked for 3 requests within 10 seconds. And there you go. So there's timestamps there. It gives us the option if we want to unblock it. So let's head over to our statistics page and see if we've got any details there as well. So we go here, let's see if we've got any increments in these values. So yeah, there you can see. So there are a load of requests made. It's blocked it multiple times, and it gives you an overall picture of, okay, so it shows you this is the popular application, this is the web server which is being accessed, these are the specific pages, all of this amazing stuff. So as you can see, our web application firewall, which is SAFELINE, is already keeping us safe and it's doing its job. What we'll also do is, let's quickly check authentication setup. So let's go settings and let's create an authentication routine. So let's add a user. Let's keep it simple. Let's call it admin and let's call it password. Look, obviously I'm not encouraging you guys to have this stuff here. You can also choose a random password, but this is just for testing purposes. You have the complete freedom to go and do what you want to do. So let's create this user, and what we'll do is we'll head back to our applications. We'll go to authentication and check this option right here. Once we do that, let's enable it. We'll choose our login method to be account password, and let's see what are the options we have for. Okay, so if the source IP equals dash, the authentication will be forced. So let's put our source IP to be our Kali machine 206. Let's set that, let's save it, and then let's have a look. But before that, we need to unblock it from our HTTP flood, because here exactly is where it was blocked. So let's unblock it, submit. So given that this authentication sequence is set up, let's go to our Kali Linux and try accessing the web application again, and let's see what exactly it presents us with. Getting our Kali back up, let's refresh this page. Okay, so it's asking us for a sign-in password, so let's get that in and let's go sign in and entering, and there we go. So as you can see, it already presented me with an authentication request, and it only then let me go through if I accepted the request or not. Another thing that we can do is we can add custom rules on our web application firewall. So if we go to protections, and if you then go to custom rules, you can add a rule in here. It just functions like a firewall. So we'll add a deny rule which says block Kali, and we'll say that if there's a source IP of 192.168.0.206, submit, block it straight away. So we don't want to do any HTTP flood, none of that stuff, no authentication. We just want to block any requests coming in from this IP address. So let's go back to our Kali machine and quickly try and see if that's going to work. So let's refresh. There you go, access forbidden. And the way you verify it's because of the block rule is we go back to our Ubuntu machine and check on our web application firewall if we've got any hits on our rule right there. Okay, there you go. So as you can see, we've got one hit, which means that straight away it's been blocked because of this custom rule. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to get rid of all of these rules and everything. So let's remove this rule. So we'll remove that. We'll also disable HTTP flood, because I'm going to show you how the web application firewall is going to protect you against SQL injections, cross-site scripting, etc. So let's get rid of everything else. Let's go to our applications. Let's get rid of authentication as well. Disable that. Great. So the place where you see where SQL injection is protected against, for example, it's under protections, and you go to detection mode, and here you can see all of the predefined modes, and then you see there are different options: disabled, balanced mode, or strict mode. Let's say it's currently set to balanced mode. So let's go to our Kali Linux and let's try something from that machine. So let's get our Kali window back up. All right, so we move this out of the way. So now the way the DVWA is set up is it's here so that students can learn the different types of attacks, so that they can, learn cybersecurity, penetration testing, all of that amazing stuff. So as you can see, there are a lot of options on here on the left-hand side. So let's go to SQL injection. Before we do anything though, we've got to change the security level setting on the DVWA. Currently it's set to low. We leave it at low, so you can either keep it at low, medium, high, or impossible, depending on what level you're at, how you want to study, how you want to learn. As you get better, you can change the setting to medium, high, or impossible, and then try to break the system. So currently we'll just set it to low. We'll submit that, and then let's go to SQL injection and let's try an SQL injection here. So this is an SQL injection query, which is single quotes or single quotes 1 equals 1. I'll explain what this means. Let's hit submit. Straight away it shows you access forbidden. Now this is because this is taking place on the web application firewall. The web application firewall is already detecting an SQL injection string, which is straight in, coming in and blocking it. So what we'll do is, let's quickly go back to our web application firewall. So let's log in there and let's set SQL injection to disabled. That's saved the moment you do that. And let's head back to our Kali machine. Let's refresh that. And there you go. So the moment you remove that, you can see that it shows you all of the SQL, basically it shows you that the SQL injection attack was successful because it's showing you all of these different entries within that database. So usually what happens is, with the DVWA, you're just supposed to put in a user ID, let's say user ID 1, and it will show you details for that user ID. But when you run an SQL injection query, in this case, which is this one right here, it's going to show you all of your database entries, which is something that you absolutely don't want. So which is why we go back to our SAFELINE web application firewall, set that to balance mode. Let's verify that is set to balance mode. Let's get our Kali Linux back up and let's try refreshing the page. There you go. Straight away access forbidden, and you're not allowed to perform any SQL injection attacks, straight blocked. So since we've demonstrated how your SAFELINE web application firewall is going to be blocking against all of these attacks, it can keep the Kali Linux at bay. You can also then go further on and try different attacks like hping, for example. You can try HTTP floods from the CLI of the Kali Linux. You can try SQL map. You can do all of that amazing stuff. Because of the length of the video, I didn't want to include a lot of things, so I just try to show you how to set up what are the different things you can do with the SAFELINE web application firewall, so that you can then go on further on and play with it and see what exactly you want to do, what are the interesting things you can do with it, and build yourself a perfect home lab. Let's quickly have a look at our SAFELINE GUI again, and let's see if it's showing us all the statistics on our dashboard, how many blocks, how many requests, everything incrementing. There you go. So you have 70 requests now, you have 2 visitors, 19 were blocked, 1 IP address, because we're only dealing with 1 IP address right now. You scroll down, it shows you your popular application again, which was your main web server .thesocialdork. And yeah, you've got all of these metrics which show up. All of this on your pro license, which is a 7-day trial. So you can also subscribe to this, get yourself a 7-day trial and set this up, practice. It's really good. It's going to help you in the long run. And you can set this up with, let's say, SIEM tools. You can run all sorts of commands from your Kali Linux machine, and you can include all of this on your resume and pretty much package and sell it as a home lab, which will definitely help you get that all-important interview call. I hope you didn't find this video too confusing, and as I said, there's a complete link in the description which has all the steps listed from A to Z. So please give this a go. Set up SAFELINE, check out its features, and if you like this video, I've also got another video which focuses on the importance of networking in cybersecurity. You can check that video right here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.